It has been a busy day for Susan. The OPD was already hectic. She had to do some administrative work, so she missed lunch. She ran toward the ER, where a gunshot case required an open laparotomy that lasted 4 hours. She will go home, make soup, eat, probably go for a walk, and finally sleep. But wait, the bell rings. Could you do me a favor? Please don't ask for extra hours. Please do. Not today, but she said, of course, anytime. I will be 2 hours late. Can you cover up for me? No, no, no. Why not? I always think of you when I am stuck. I am not an emergency helpline. Ah! Another night without rest. But at least I was there for somebody in need, Susan thought. Sarah was always in crisis. Susan had always tried to be there for her, but Sarah never asked her about her struggles. Even when she mentioned her struggles, she changed the topic. Sometimes this frustrates Susan, but she thinks, God always loves those who put others before themselves. I cannot become a self-centered and selfish person. I will take fast food from the way and sleep. Why do I do this to myself? We somehow relate to Susan, don't we? Saying yes to others' responsibility when we are exhausted ourselves? Welcome to our channel where we help people be more in control of their life. Let's see what is not working for Susan. Putting more effort being nice out of fear or goodwill. Taking responsibility for others. If you feel like you are working as hard as you can, but your life seems out of control and you are failing to meet your responsibilities, perhaps you need to stop and realize what your job is and what isn't. The solution is not working harder, but rather setting proper boundaries. Taking responsibility for others out of an inability to say no and then losing control of your life will lead only to unhealthy practices and depression. Just as property owners draw lines around their land, you need to pull them too. But if you are a good person like Susan, you will probably ask, aren't boundaries selfish? Can I set limits and still be a loving person? What are legitimate boundaries? What if someone is upset or hurt by my boundaries? How do I answer someone who wants my time, love, energy, or money? Why do I feel guilty or afraid when setting boundaries? How do boundaries relate to submission? Many clinical psychological symptoms, such as depression, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, addictions, impulsive disorders, guilt problems, shame issues, panic disorders, and marital and relational struggles, find their root in conflicts with boundaries. But we are not born with the skill of making boundaries. Like every social skill, it has to be learned and practiced until perfected. It is a continuous process, with the most important part formed in childhood. Good parenting is an important factor in all of this. Regardless your parents taught you how to say no, or not let us see what can we do at this point in our life to invest in the right people and identify those who are draining us. Relationships and friendships are necessary and beautiful parts of our life, and they require our time and energy, but sometimes we invest too much and compromise too often. In this age of social media, we crave real friendships, and some people, in a desperate effort to make more friends, tie themselves in knots trying to please everyone, only to be left exhausted and drained. And ironically, saying yes to everyone means giving very little to ourselves and the people who are worth our time. Learning to say no makes us more content and happier. Perhaps you understand this all but are still not able to say no. Let us identify the reasons that you are afraid of saying no. Many of us want to avoid conflict or disappointing others. We might feel guilty or worry about coming across as selfish. These feelings are natural, but saying yes to everything can lead to burnout, resentment, and stress. Remember, saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It's an act of self-care and respect for your time and energy. As author Brené Brown says in her book, Daring Greatly, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. Let's explore some strategies for saying no effectively. Setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. Think of boundaries as a way to communicate your needs and priorities. When you say no, you're not rejecting the person. You're simply prioritizing what matters most to you. As Paulo Coelho writes in The Alchemist, when you say yes to others, Make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Let's explore some strategies for saying no effectively. If someone is very challenging to say no to, try to meet him in the group instead of being alone with him. Know the distance you have to keep with every person in your life. Be clear and direct. Instead of making long excuses, stay firm and assertive in your refusal. Excuses leave a chance for negotiations and pushbacks. Simply saying, "I can't do this," is better than "I have to give my time to the family, as I have not given them proper time for many days." Be short, respectful, and to the point. Use I statement. Framing your response around your needs makes it less likely to come across as a personal rejection. For instance, instead of saying, "You're asking too much of me," try, "I need to focus on my other commitments right now." This keeps the focus on your perspective without blaming the other person. As the writer Anne Lamott puts it, no is a complete sentence. 1. Practice self-awareness. Remember the thing that you are rejecting if you are overcommitting to someone. Is that your family time, your free time, or a commitment already done with your best friend? Saying no comfortably shows that you know the value of your time. You are making room for your priorities when you are eliminating unwanted obligations. Reminding yourself of the focus that you want more of, be it time with family or money for an important project, will make you feel more justified in order to pursue those goals. Buy some time. If you are not comfortable saying no directly, delay your answer to think through the options in more detail. The proverb to think before you speak is very good psychological advice. When you insert time between someone's request and your reply, the situation seems more under your control. Once you have borrowed some time, you can make your refusal more easy by refusing on the text instead of refusing in person. Just remember some sentences and practice them in front of a mirror until you can comfortably say it to a person. "I need to check my calendar. I'll get back to you. Let me check with my husband, wife, partner to see if we're free that day. I've got to think about that. I'll let you know. I'll have to call you back in a few minutes." Try to use a polite but assertive tone, as these are not questions, but rather statements. "I have a policy thing." When people know that this is a thing you have practiced your whole life, it is easier for them to understand you and handle your rejection. Statements like, "I don't lend money to anyone," make it less personal to them and more of a rule that you live by. Also, saying that "I have a policy regarding this" adds seriousness to the matter and makes it more authoritative. When you say that "I have a policy of having dinner with my family on the weekends," there is a high chance that people will not bother you on weekends because it tells people that you are already committed to your family. Use the sandwich method. The sandwich method is an amazing way to politely refuse somebody. Start with thanking them that they asked you, deliver your no, and end with something positive. This is a very respectful way of rejecting something. If someone asks for your help on a project, you could say, "I feel honored that you asked for my help, but I cannot take time out of my schedule for this. I hope you understand my position, and you will be able to complete the project like you always do." 1. Remember, you're rejecting the request, not the person. The guilt of saying no stems from the fear of being the cause of a damaged relationship. However, it is important to remember that you are turning down a request, not rejecting a person. There had been many times when you said no, and the other person understood you, but you remember only those moments when someone got angry. If the person is sincere to you, he will understand you. And if he makes a fuss about declining a request, you should rethink your boundaries with him. Say no and repeat. If a person doesn't understand that no means no, the first thing to say is no, and the 600th thing to say is repeating that no. If you hesitate repeating yourself, remember that they are the ones who are insisting again and again, even if you refuse the first time. This is a good strategy for people who are just acquaintances, but are too cold for close relatives. Offer an alternative solution. If you can't fulfill the complete request and still do not want to say no, then give an alternative solution. This will show that you care about them while maintaining your boundaries too. If someone asks you to help with some homework, but you are already busy, you can recommend someone else who can help them. Give meaning to your life. Persons who are people pleasers most often lack meaning and purpose in their lives. This means since they don't value themselves, then people's opinion will decide their worth. Give your life meaning by giving a neighbor a lift on the way if his car broke down, or making someone new in your city understand directions. This will enhance your view of self, and you will find it easy to reject a dinner that you don't want to go to. Always remember that if your self-worth comes from external sources such as your group or office colleagues, it is not healthy because you cannot please everyone at all times. And the last thing is, practice, practice, practice. Like any other skill, saying no gets easier with practice. Start with small, less consequential situations and gradually work your way up. Over time, you'll become more comfortable with asserting your boundaries. Saying no isn't always easy, but it's an essential skill for leading a balanced, fulfilling life. Remember to be clear, use I statements, and handle pushback with grace. Most importantly, permit yourself to prioritize your needs without guilt. You've got this.